Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Just Two Dads with my partner and co-host, Mr. Shawn Francis. I am Brian Altunian. Today, we're going to be talking to a warrior mom who has a child on the autism spectrum who has taken her situation and her child's progression and turned that into to an amazing business of support for other families with children, especially those families that have children on the spectrum. And so it's going to be an exciting conversation today with our guest, Ms. Michelle Rogers. So stay tuned for another episode of Just Two Dads. Hey, everybody. I am Brian Altunian here with Shawn Francis and our special guest today, Ms. Michelle Rogers. Want to thank everybody for if you're catching us live on Facebook. Please feel free to comment, say hello, post anything that you've got, anything that you listen to, you hear that something you want to comment on. Please, we'll share some of those comments on screen. If you're seeing us after the fact on our YouTube channel at Just Two Dads, welcome. Also, leave your comments there if you don't mind. Subscribe, share with your friends. Hearing us on podcast outlets. Thanks for listening in. And again, send notes to us at our email at wearejusttwodads@gmail.com. Suggestions of speakers, people that you think that we should be talking to, any comments you have on any of our past speakers. That's where we'll stay in communication with you. So hopefully you'll engage the audience here in this discussion. Today's going to be a great conversation. To all those listening at WSTX AM radio down in the U.S. Virgin Islands, hello. And for those watching us on the Roku channel under Empowered Media, welcome. And looking forward to it. This episode, I think we said is episode number 95. Shawn, it's episode number 95.
That's
Shawn
correct.
and I decided to do this podcast a couple of years ago because we kept meeting such amazing people who had taken their own personal experiences of dealing with family members with special needs, and they had turned it outward and to support the community with great services and just such needed support and resources that we thought, why don't we just highlight these folks and give them an opportunity to share with a broader audience what it is that they do and see if we can make a difference. Because we know that if we're helping the special needs community, that help and support can go out, transcends special needs and goes into other areas of our community and our society. So great show today. I'm very excited. So before we start with our special guests, as I always do every week, Mr. Shawn Francis, my partner in Thrive, how are you today?
I am blessed and thankful and ready to go. And I don't want to have the show wait any longer, but I just wanted to share something really quick. I made a post earlier on social media talking about grace. It's something that we always try and give people the same grace that we seek. And I had an experience yesterday, kind of bled into today. So I picked up Elijah from summer school yesterday. And as we're walking, he has a tendency, for those of you that are actually watching, whether it's live or after the fact on YouTube, when there's too much sensory stuff going on, he'll take his shirt or his blazer and cover his ears. And when I'm walking with him from the front of the school to the car, he likes to get close and he'll, put his arm around me and wants me to put my arm around him. So we're walking doing that. And he's got, his ears covered as though it's cold or windy. And there was a man that walked by. And as he walked by, and we walked by him, actually, he's on the sidewalk, and he stopped, and he's just like, and he's staring with this look on his face, like, and it bothered me, but at the same time, I wanted to, give the grace. So I just looked at him. I said, if you're going to stare, at least blink. And then I said, the other thing is, it's okay to ask a question rather than stare. It's okay. And he just continued to stare. He looked like he was maybe even more befuddled. I don't know if English wasn't his first language. Don't know what the case is. And I came home and I told my wife about it. And she says, well, you don't know what his situation is. He might have not been able to verbally express what he was thinking. Who knows? And I my attempt at the time was to give grace by literally saying what I meant, but I'm not sure how successful I was at it. And my point was that, giving grace is a constant work in progress. And so at this point, I want to give the grace to Michelle Rogers that has been denied by yapping a little too long, and just welcome our fantastic guest, Miss Michelle Rogers. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you for having me, guys.
And I don't know if it's Miss or Mrs.
Mrs.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. I got the impression that you were part of a great team, but you doing what you do, taking your daughter's diagnosis, turning that into both a business and a mission, is what we're going to talk about here today. And you probably just did what you needed to do. Don't see yourself as a hero, but like I always like to tell our guests, if that's the case, you're wrong, because we see you as a hero, and all heroes have superpowers, and those powers come from a hero's origin. So why don't you tell us about, where you're from, how you grew up, and how that affected the way that you dealt with your daughter's diagnosis and responded to it by providing hope for other people.
Yeah, this is a really interesting question. Nobody's really asked me this before, but definitely didn't have the best childhood. I would definitely say I took a really fair share of face first hits in life. I was one of 5. I think I probably had a little bit of a learning disability myself, probably until I didn't really catch up academically until 6th grade. I was painfully shy. I was overweight. I was overweight had issues with my weight for my whole life. And so, it definitely wasn't, a childhood I would love for my kids, but it's interesting because of all of the adversities I did have growing up. I think it's what made me equipped to handle what came our way when my daughter was diagnosed. And even if it's not that, but for any challenge in life, I'm probably one of the grittiest people that walk the earth when it comes to challenges, probably because of all the pain of my childhood. So it was very interesting.
I want to commend you for that, and I'm glad that nobody's asked you that before, because it means that we've got a shot at adding value to your time here today.
Yeah,
but sure. I want to commend you because can never get my fascination with the human spirit never ever ceases, because we're such amazing creatures, and strange, quite frankly, because you can take a person in a situation like yours without knowing the details, and one is just as likely to have taken that situation and perpetuated it, passed it on, as opposed to turning around and saying, that's not what my children are going to go through. And there's nothing to determine whether or not a person is going to do that. And I don't know if you can elaborate on that. Maybe you're not sure of why you chose one path versus the other, but I've seen so much of either one.
I want to tell you, we were poor. We didn't have a lot of money. It was 5 of us. My mother didn't work. She was very bad with money too. So the money that we did have, she would squander. My father finally had it and had left when we were 13. In the meantime, she was physically abusive all of my childhood. I got a lot of bad behaviors from the way, from learning from her. Bad with money. I drove cars with no insurance. I almost got arrested one time. I got pulled over. They were looking for the license and the insurance. I knew I didn't have it. And this is my early 20s. And my girlfriend's car seat for her son was in the back seat. I think that's what saved me. And I said, I don't know where the insurance is, because I knew I didn't have it. And he's like, all right, just, whatever. And he left. And I remember that was like one of these moments in my life where it's like,
yeah.
That's crazy.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It could have went either way. I remember writing a check I knew would bounce. These were like, anytime these things happen in anybody's life, it's your defining moment of like the fork in the road, where you can decide to make a change, or you can keep going this way and just be like, oh, thank God I got that. Let's hope the next one isn't as bad. You know what I mean? Almost like impending doom. I can live my life always expecting like impending doom, or I could say, listen, I don't want to be like this anymore. This is not the life I want to live anyway.
Right. Wow. That is incredible. What a way to even just start. And I know that we talked before in prep for the show, and you weren't necessarily prepared for that. Neither were we, but to add value like that, vulnerability is so immeasurable in value.
So when you had those moments of clarity, if you will, or a fork in the road, then like how did you choose? Like, tell us about your path, because obviously you made some decision, which I think is what most people realize, right? When you're dealt with that decision making process.
And it's interesting. because when you live your life like that, you also attract other people that live their lives like that.
For sure.
Yes.
And then when you start questioning, like, I don't think I should be doing stuff like this. And you're like, no, what are you talking about? You just do what you got to do. It is what it is,
Forget about it.
Yeah.
You're in that, right? Yeah, you live in that part of the country. Forget about it.
Forget about it. It's no big deal.
That's funny.
But like, I guess I just said, no, I don't want to do this anymore. And I mean, this is just, I'm giving you like a teeny tiny bit of the pain. And I call it my education, my life education of what I've been through. But it's definitely made me like really tough and really resilient. And I'm not saying that I don't have setbacks and I don't cry sometimes and things don't go my way. We're going through something right now I've never experienced before. And it's like, so I can easily go to the why me's. Why does this have to happen? It's bad enough already dealing with the diagnosis. Now I got to deal with like fighting for shit. Now I got to fight for everything that she needs. Mm-hmm. And, I could sit there and just, lick my wounds and just cry and bitch and moan about how it's not fair and it's not right. And then there's my girl, stimming in the corner, just waiting for me.
Yes.
So like, these are your forks in the road where you have an option to just spin in your shit. I call it the grieving process, and some parents don't get out of it. You're grieving the neurotypical childhood you thought you were going to have, the experience you were going to have as a child.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I go in my program, we talk about the 5 stages of grief. Now, a lot of times everybody thinks of grief, they think of death. And it's this death of this expectation of what you thought this parenting experience was going to be like.
Exactly.
And the idea here, right? So the best way to process grief is to get to acceptance. But acceptance isn't like, I'm down for autism. It's not like that. It's more of like, this wasn't right. This wasn't what I signed up for. Shit, life is unfair. We all know that, but it's what it is. And if I can create from what is, and that's where true acceptance is. And that's when things changed for my daughter.
Exactly.
So
and
you're going to go through
that goes right back to what we're talking about, how we respond to different things. What you're talking about is objective reality, which is right in the middle, right? And what other people do is they accept one or the other to an extreme. Everything is like, oh, woe is me. Or there's a Pollyanna effect where it's like, no, my child's autism is a gift. And that's not to say that there aren't gifts that come with it, because there's things you got to embrace, but nobody's, cleaning a diaper for a 5-year-old or teaching, going through feeding therapy for one who can't feed themselves, going, this is fantastic. There's gold at the end of the rainbow, but objective reality. So that's to be commended. Brian, I cut you off. You were going to say something.
No, I was just going to say, so I definitely want us to talk about your program, but like we're still kind of early in the process. So you met your husband, your partner, you had children. How many children do you have? Like, tell us all that stuff. Cause
so I met my husband probably in my early 20s. We were friends for many years before we got together. And then he's one of the kindest, most honest people I know. He also had a very rough childhood and has his challenges with that to this day. So it's very interesting because we have a lot of similarities up to a point, and then we have some different philosophies on certain things and how we maybe handle them. And one of the things I talked to a mother about today, which I think is so important for couples, and I remember this in the beginning when we first got together, but then I lost a little bit. Now it's starting to come back to me again, is that when we're with a partner, we have to love, if we make the choice to love them for who they are, not looking to people please, we're not looking to change them.
Yeah.
So like that's the kind of thing that I, especially with the highest rate of divorce of parents of children with special needs.
Yes.
There's, we all have I'm a fixer. Listen, I'm full on fixer. I get it. I'm also a shark and he's a dolphin. That's what we always call in the house. He's the dolphin, I'm the shark. And, I don't want to make him a shark. I love the things about him, but I also have to love the things that he can do and the things that he can't. And I have to be okay with that. I think that's really been so helpful for my families in my program, but also helpful for me too, to kind of like make this journey more peace around it. That's how I want to look at autism. I don't want everybody to be worrying about autism anymore. That's why I tell my parents, like, I want you to get to the day where you're not thinking about autism every second of every day. Like, what if you can get your life back? That's really what I want for them.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
So I married him, and we both came from very different backgrounds, and we definitely have some different philosophies on different things. But he's the most kindest, wonderful man. He's an amazing father. You know, and then we had Juliana, and we were paycheck to paycheck. It was definitely better with my money, but it's so expensive to live in New York. And he owns his own business, and I was working, and it was just, it was a lot. And for a while there, and, you know, we were living paycheck to paycheck. And then I opened a business that got us into about $40,000 worth of debt. Ended up having to close that when I got pregnant. And so then we carried around all this debt. We were, you know, not like in dire straits, but it was definitely tense with money. So, you know, she was born, and everything was great. She was amazing. At that point, I was working I started in sales when I was in my 20s, and became, within 5 years at my first job, became like a multi-million-dollar salesperson. Got together with my husband, then went to another company, did it again for this company, got multi-million-dollar sales. And then things started to like loosen up, things started to feel really good. And then she was born, and I was worried I wasn't gonna be able to get pregnant with her. Got pregnant with her, and then she was perfect. And I promised every night, I was like, gosh, this is such a blessing. You know, there was a time where when my father passed, that I was like, you know, do I believe in God? Don't I believe in God? And I was like, you know, it's one of these things that you have to go all in on, even if you don't have proof. And then for me, it was like, you know, my father was such a wonderful man that I can't imagine that I would never see him again. So I went all in my belief that there is a God. And then when I got pregnant with her, and she was born, it felt even more connected to a higher power, you know? And then it was I felt so blessed. And she was perfect and amazing. And she started to say words at like 10 months. She said the word map. She loved Dora the Explorer. And words. And probably noticed things went backwards around 13 months. And I have a family member that's a BCBA, and she actually happened to notice like some signs. I'm like, oh, you're just projecting. You're projecting your business on my child. And every sign under the book, I was like, no, you're wrong, you're wrong. And she would stop using those words. And I thought she was learning new words, but I think it was just some random noises. And then she'd stop using those. And then I remember having this moment looking at her, and she's crying and tantruming, like, where did my happy baby go? You know? And it was just a crazy, we just went backwards. And then I remember finally, like, I had multiple family members saying, gosh, she's so quiet. She's not really saying anything. And then she used to take toys, dump them out of the toy box, and then grab them one by one and just start twisting them in her hands. And she was drooling excessively, not talking, and just like twisting stuff. And I was just like, you know, still denial. No, this is wrong. Everybody's whatever. And then I had signed her up for a nursery school program. And within a week, I got the call that she's not, you know, she's hysterical crying when I drop her off. She doesn't follow the classroom. She's not, you know, she won't calm down, and, you know, you're going to have to come get her. And we don't know if this is going to work with her here. And even then, I don't know if anything's wrong, you know. Finally, everyone's saying she's so quiet. So I ended up calling early intervention in. And they were there for like 10, I think both of them were there for like 10 or 20 minutes tops. And like, oh yeah, she's definitely behind. And I was fucking mad because, sorry, my potty. Then I was
That's
mad. Right. I have a potty mouth. I was mad because I'm like, you guys just like, of course you're gonna say something's wrong. You want the money, you know. I'm always, because I'm business, so I'm thinking like billable hours, not even realizing how stupid that was. There's so many kids that need help that they don't have enough people to help them. And
right.
When he had left, he had said, listen, you know, I can't diagnose her because she's so young. She's not 2 yet. She's like, so if it feels like it's not getting better, call me back in. I'm thinking, I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you get diagnosed for what? There's nothing. I couldn't get these people out of my house fast enough. And they gave her speech therapy, and then they gave her like special ed or whatever. And in the meantime, she gets kind of almost kicked out of this preschool. She's getting worse, and probably not getting any better. And I'm really mad now, mad at my family, mad at my sister, because I felt like we opened like this Pandora's box. Now we can't close it. So then I tell the story 100 times. I get upset every time.
Mm.
Then finally, I take her to her 2-year-old. I was pregnant, very pregnant with my boy when this was happening. I took her to her 2-year-old appointment. And I said to the doctor, everyone's saying she's behind, but she's not behind, right? I'm trying to ask all these people, like, she's not behind, even though everybody's saying, right? And he's like, well, she's using 20 words with intent. And I said, no. And he's like, well, she's definitely behind. And I remember it was like, now I was listening,
Yeah.
And then I called that guy I swore I would never have back in my home again. And my boy was born at that point. It was December, so he was about 3 months old, and he said she was on the spectrum. And I know you guys know this, but I remember holding her in the hospital when she was born, thinking about her future and what it could be like. And,
everything you want.
Yeah, and then it just went black in that moment.
Yeah, that moment of diagnosis. It's such a critical time for so many people. It's the moment.
Yes. And my husband came home immediately, and he felt really bad about it too. He was blaming himself.
Because that's what we do, man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What did I do?
We do.
Like our darkest hours as parents. It is your darkest hour.
And you're about to have another baby.
I had him already. And I asked the doctor, and he's like 3 months old. And I said, what about my boy? And he was like, I'm sorry to tell you that, if you have one, you have a higher percentage of having another.
Right.
So, it's funny. I tell the story so many times, and I get upset every time. It's like reliving it almost.
It's part of who you are. And, you relive it because, we don't ever forget that moment. We don't even forget the power of that moment, the impact that moment has. And so, of course, the great thing about here, Michelle, is, you're among not only friends, but also people who have gone through it ourselves. We know it's,
that is one of the best things about an autism community. I was so humbled by the open arms of support. And that's one of the most wonderful things about the community is the support of other families who know what this feels like.
Absolutely.
Because nobody knows what this feels like, who's never been this. Even my sister, who is a BCBA, does not know what this feels like.
Because there's no way for them to empathize enough to feel what it feels like.
Yes. It's like it really was, when you don't know a lot about autism other than like Rain Man, then you think it's a death sentence. And that's what I thought. And I was so angry with God. I went from so grateful that he gave her to me, then so angry, like he wrecked her, he wrecked this gift. And, for a while there, I was in complete depression. I was going through my grief. I was mean to the teachers. I wasn't helpful. I probably yelled at her more than I'd like to admit. I was scared. I was wasting time, not focusing on what we should be doing next, searching for a cure or something. I didn't know, And then I remember thinking one night I was going to bed after I put the kids to bed, and I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, my gosh, I'm going to die one day, and who's going to care for her when I'm gone?
Let me.
But it wasn't a sad thought for me.
No,
it was an empowering thought because it got me out of my shit.
Sure.
Because it's like, you know what? If I do die one day, I want to know whether or not wherever she lands, that I showed up for her. And what I've been doing over the last couple of months was not that.
That's powerful.
Let me give you this. That moment you described right there at that point. The work that we do here on the show is about uplifting people. The work that we do in financial services is about preparing for that time when we're no longer here. But let me tell you something. I belong to more than one support group, some virtual, some live and in person. Since my son's diagnosis, he's 16. He was diagnosed at the age of 3. And I have been around some of the most fantastic, amazing people. Some of the best of those people do not have, and I think outside of special needs, period, I should just take that away. Few people have the self-awareness that you have. Do you understand that a person's ability to be self-aware governs their ability to make the world around them a better place? And you have so much of that. What you described, you know, Einstein, there's a saying that is attributed to Albert Einstein, which is that a problem cannot be solved at the same level of consciousness at which it occurs. Meaning, here's the problem right here. You're in the middle of it. You can't solve it unless you're able to step back outside or get some objective point of view from somebody else. You're giving that to yourself. That's something that most of us strive or should be striving to do. So I have to commend you for that.
Oh, thank you. I try to reverse engineer everything I've done with her because we've come so far. We went from that nonverbal, black future, not knowing what anything's going to happen, like just everything going dark on what I thought could happen for her, to where she is today, where now it's like her future went from completely dark to gray to cloudy to now it's clear.
Tell us how you got from that point, and then how you got from not only taking her from one point to the other, but then how that becomes your vocation and your business.
Yeah, and I was going to say, and you have another child.
Yes,
as well.
He is neurotypical. Yes,
neurotypical, and so and you're teaching, and he's going to have a whole different level of empathy and tolerance.
He spoke like a mayor by the age of 2. He had fire out of his mouth, and he'd say words like impossible. I don't see it, and if I say this for any parent as a neurotypical sibling, is that when the teacher comes for Juliana, the teacher comes for Cody too.
Oh God, I love it.
And he was always a part of it, because that's always the thing too, is like, oh, this child's getting so much more attention than the child that is neurotypical. And I always thought about that. I thought about that because I didn't want him to ever feel that way. I was like, she's here for both of you.
Oh, love really, that.
And all of the teachers, we worked to make sure that he was great. He was an amazing peer role model for her. He can express himself. He's like talk like a mayor too, because of all the therapies that she got.
Hilarious. How old are they both right now, by the way?
So Juliana's 9 and Cody's 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now, so take us through that. How do we get
to? Finally, I'll tell you something right now. For everybody who's dealing with this and having the emotions and going through the diagnosis, this is absolutely your bottom as a human. Like, forget about like as a mother, as a human being. This is probably one of the, you jump in front of a bus to save your children. So this is like the worst spot you could ever be in, other than, God forbid, losing them. So what I want to say was that when you're there and you make the conscious decision, like, I need to show up, 95% of the game is here. 5% is the actual tactical, the ABA or the therapies or the whatever. 95% of the game is here. And that's one of the things that I had to that I did subconsciously, that now I teach consciously to parents, because I didn't realize what I had done. I just thought, I'm going to show them how to do all the things I did. This is when I first started coaching. I'm going to start showing them all the things I did for Julia. They're going to do it, and they're going to see amazing progress. And they'd fall on their faces. I'm like, I don't understand. I gave you gold. Yeah, this is great. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Right? So like, I'm wondering why this isn't working. I said, wait a minute. You don't believe.
Yeah. What we think about, we bring about. There you go. Yeah.
So that's kind of what happened. So literally, once I got with the program, she started to change like immediately.
Interesting how that happens.
Yes. I got with the program. The majority of the problem was here.
Right.
And it was really fascinating to see that connection. I always call it, in my program, I call it the invisible umbilical cord. Even though they're out of the tummy, they're still connected to you, and what you're thinking and doing is exactly what they're gonna what the results are going to be produced for your child.
What you eat, they ingest, right, to some degree. So it's almost like you got to feed the brain with positive thoughts so that they can pick that up as well. Wow. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. So she started to kind of get with it.
Yeah. So first thing, we tried to do pecs, but she do that thing where she's twisting everything in her hands, and I'm watching her. I'm like, oh, can't do that. I'm like, she's not using, she's twisting. So then we have to change it to, so we changed it to sign language. Within a week, she had 10 signs. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what?
Love it.
That means that she was there all along. I always tell my moms and dads to presume competence, just because comprehension, just because this doesn't work doesn't mean these don't work. These work fine.
Right.
So
100%.
So
wait,
yeah,
I'll just say this. My daughter Jordan, who by the way watches and always comments on our show, but she had trouble communicating in the very beginning, and then she learned sign language, and it was so cute because when she was young, her favorite signs were cow, duck, pig, and so she would end every sentence cow, duck, pig, more cheese, please, cow, duck, pig, and it was just one of our favorite things. We didn't care. There she is, cow, duck, pig. She's commenting, cow, duck, pig. That was our favorite thing. So I get it, right? It's facilitation of communication. People forget that. We call this the terrible twos because our kids are frustrated that they're not communicating, right? And so they get frustrated. That's what the tantrums generally are. But once communication is facilitated, whether it's verbal or sign or some other way, the world opens up. So
and the tantruming stopped immediately.
Oh my gosh,
I love her wants and needs now. In a way, in a bridge, I call it the bridge form of communication.
Yes,
language is on the other end of the bridge. You're pre-verbal here. I like to say pre-verbal versus non-verbal because there's language. Language is important, and then the bridge provides that communication.
Love that. So she frees up. She's communicating now. She's picking up signs like
going crazy. Taught her to potty train when she was still not using signs. This was the sign for potty. It was amazing to watch the transformation of her. And so then she ended up going to a 614 within a couple of months. When I toured that school, that placement, because placements are high commodity, right? She was nonverbal. She was using sign language, and by the time she started that school, she had a couple of words. And then within 3 months, she was probably. We're always looking at a placement for your children. You always want to make sure they're in the middle. You don't want them to be the peer role model for the whole class, and you don't want them to be the lowest. You want to always have some people that they can learn from, and then you can have some people that can learn from them. And after a couple of months, I realized, looking at the scope of the class, that she was the peer role model. And I said, all right, it's time to move on. And everyone said I was crazy, and I said, nope, I feel like, this is the right placement. And it was interesting because everything's serendipity. There was a child that really needed her spot, and I moved her, and that child could get the support she needs. This is how God works. I think about like our whole journey like that. And I say, I was so mad at God for doing this to us. Then I went from like, listen, we don't have to like each other, but if you could just work parallel to me here, to now where I've been able to watch this transformation. And I have on my website, on the homepage, is the actual, I created a 10-minute video of just showing this transformation of her for years. And
that's fantastic.
And now I look at our journey, and I believe to my bones that God sent this to me on purpose.
Yeah.
So I could heal her and help as many other families
100%.
Heal as well.
Absolutely. And, God tests our faith on a regular basis. So, you didn't have it at first, and then you got it, and he was like, are you sure you have it? Because I'm going to throw some stuff at you.
Yeah, he should.
And you're like, okay, maybe I'm not sure, but then, you're steeled in your resolve. So good, good for you for recognizing and acknowledging that.
Yeah.
Amazing. So let's then talk about how you sort of formalize that. All right, Sean's got a question before.
One quick thing I was going to ask, Michelle, you referred to the school as I think you said C16. Can you explain?
A 614. So basically, when you are in, before you're school aged, you in the United States, you have the right to a fair and free education under your school's, under your school district. And they were required to provide her special needs placement in a school, and our district didn't offer it. So then they paid the tuition for us to go to a private autism school, and I found it, but they're, because the classes are so small, they can only take a certain amount of children. So she was in the 614. That means 6 kids, 1 main teacher, and almost like a 1-to-1 for all the kids.
Oh my gosh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was the most. It was for the severe autism. I don't even like saying that word, but like children who display very strong, very intense autism symptoms would get this placement. And she got into this class. I toured the school like almost 9 months before she actually started it, and at that time she was just signing. And within 9 months, by the time she started, she had a couple of words. And then within 3 months, I was like, she was starting to say even more. I was like, all right, now looking at the scope of the classroom, that, geez, I think she needs to move on. And they were like, you're out of your mind. This is where she needs to be. We should give it a year. I'm like, no, I see time with our children as currency. And I want to make sure I'm spending it wisely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's huge, because what you're talking about, her being the peer model, that could easily slip by you and you don't even identify that, especially when you're so thankful for the gift and the connection that you have with the school. In the city that we lived in, the parents group that we had, and it's primarily dads, we met with the school district over the course of I think a little over a year to get an autism program at the middle school level, because we only had it at the elementary school level. And then when the program was created, we were faced with the reality that it probably wasn't necessarily a fit for Elijah, which was really tough to face, because I was starting to feel like, my first thought was like, well, this program is in place, he's getting ready to go to middle school. Why would he not be in the program that I helped create? We, told them what was important to us and blah, blah, blah. And then when I had to face that it wasn't the best fit at that point in time, it's kind of like, whoa, am I authentic? Is that, so being present, special needs or not, is a constant work in progress. So that's fantastic.
That's a good point. Yeah.
This is what it is. I just put it as a quote. There it is for everybody, right? Time with our children is like a currency. Think about how you spend it. I think that is so brilliant.
Oh, thank you.
Brilliant.
It is.
Oh my gosh. That was gold right there.
When the show, as the show gets
That's our show, everybody.
After the
Thanks
fact,
for coming.
Yes, as the show gets promoted after the fact, those are the words that are going to be like, and if people don't watch it because of that, well, I don't know what to tell you.
That's brilliant. It really is brilliant. And I think it's such a great context for, again, that next phase, which is, okay, so, because clearly while there's a subjective component to it because you're living it, there's an objective perspective that you have in how you now, as a parent, start looking at your child's development and what kinds of tools are beneficial for you as a parent that you can then help other parents gain.
Yeah, what I noticed when we went to that special ed, that autism school, that's when I started to see, like, I assumed every parent was like me. and it's not. It's actually, I'm probably the exception. Yeah, not the rule. And one of the beautiful things about the autism community is the community. But that's also, it's like a blessing and then it is a curse.
And a curse.
Because it's people. It's people. Yeah. And so we have to, I've always said, human beings are the strangest beings on the planet. We're at the top of the food chain, but our behavior doesn't always, is not always in alignment with, the things that we want or seek or hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us then about the program that you've created, that people can find this on your website, right?
Yeah.
So coaching program.
Great. Yeah. So on my website, michellerogrogers.com, I have information on all the different programs we have. But one of the flagship, my baby, is the Champions for Our Children Masterclass. So basically what that is it's a 90-day program where we have an online course you have a lifetime access to. You have lifetime access to call recordings. But what's really great about it is that you get such hand-holding support over those 90 days. Whether you're newly diagnosed, whether you have some specific goals and you've been in the club for a while and you want to potty train, there's not one child that has left my program without being potty trained. We've potty trained 100% of every child that's come in there. If the goal was potty training, they left potty trained. And I find if the child is ambulatory, I would say if the child can use an iPad, they can pee on a potty. So there are 5. We've had children, we've had adults, 21, 24, 30 in this program. And I hadn't attended for parents of children that are adult children, right? Or older children. But I'm like, no, if you believe that it's possible, then I'm going to show you it is. And that's kind of, we invite everybody. So yeah, I've been running this program for almost 2 years. It's 90 days of support. It includes 3 group coaching calls a week. So on Tuesdays is my call. I go over with you everything from parent to parent of what it's like, raising a child with autism, how to help you get know what kind of agency to use for your ABA, how to talk to your insurance, how to sit at an IEP table and not feel intimidated or scared. We go through everything. And on my Wednesday call, this is really the heart of everything. If you don't already know, it is the mindset, because mindset is 95% of the game. So we have a mindset coach that runs that call on Wednesdays.
Beautiful.
You're having problems in your marriage, your job. It doesn't even have to be autism related, because it's all connected. If I believe something about one thing, I believe it about everything. It bleeds into everything. So those mindset calls are really just to talk about anything that's upsetting you. And then Thursday's calls are with our behaviorists. We have BCBAs that one of them was on Juliana's team when her language was emerging, and they're going to have access to that person. And we have 3 of them now. So we have 3 BCBAs on the team that they can actually speak to and start to build plans towards getting goals. And it's been amazing. We also have a dietitian that comes on once a month, and we have a beautiful person in there now. He's like, I call him the trifecta, because he's male and he's BCBA, which is very rare in this world right now. But he's also an adult with autism who did not speak till he was 7.
Fantastic. So your business is pretty much like, so your loved one, and let's not even say child because of the range. Yeah. Your loved one has been diagnosed. Now what? And that's pretty much what you do.
But it's not one-on-one, just to be clear, right? It's a group.
We do offer one-on-one. We have different programs, but like, honestly, everything you need is a group. But if like group doesn't work for you, my call times don't work for you, then yeah, we do offer a different program, and then I have private too. But the idea here is that I try to offer different tiers of support so I can help as many families as I can, because I know this is expensive. I get this. Right now, we're in the middle of a $47 3-day potty intensive. I mean, like last 2 weeks ago, I did a 5-day nonverbal to communicate. So it's like,
did you say $47?
It was $47 for a 3-day potty.
3-day potty. That seems pretty inexpensive.
Yeah, that's value. That's just to show people what's possible in 3 days. But I mean, obviously, we'd love you to be with us for 90. But the idea here is I want to start to get you to believe again. Like when that baby was in your arms and you didn't know what was coming.
When it was dark and you had no idea where the light was coming from.
I'll tell you something. Juliana just got into this gen ed. She's now going into her 4th grade general education class. So no more integrate. She was an integrate up to this point, which I was delighted with. And they suggested that she's academically so strong that she does not need integrated anymore. And I burst into tears.
I'm sure. From
where we went, and I'm still on this journey, guys. Like, that's the amazing thing. Like, I'm not like on the other, I'm still a parent with a child with autism, going through all the struggles that go with that. And you're watching me go through this journey too. And I want to just say, like, like this, everything that I've done for her the tactical wouldn't have mattered if I didn't believe what was possible. And in those 3 days when we do these intensives, I do them so cheap because I want as many people to come in as possible, but I want to make you start believing again.
Yeah.
That's it. I just need a little ember of hope, and then I can blow that right into a fire.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Have you, so while your daughter's on the autism spectrum, have you had families that have had children or family members with other special needs issues that was not autism? Was it, other folks that
I've had families with children with Down syndrome. I've had, and by the way, everything I do works for every child because it's all based on behavior. But yeah, so we have children with all different types of issues that come. I focus and market to families of children with autism because that's me. But yes, I'll help anybody. Global developmental delays, ADHD, ADD, Down syndrome, even my girlfriend's like, you should just offer potty train just to neurotypical parents because everyone struggles with it. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, why not?
And it's just like, for me, it's like one of the easiest. Because I'm like, this is all it's ridiculous. And I get hard cases. I get some moms that come in, it's not working. Everything you told me, it's not working. And I'm like, I can't show it to you because it doesn't show well on the. I just showed them this today that you'll never reach obstacles unless you're trying stuff and failing your way there.
For sure.
So like
that's fantastic.
right before a big breakthrough is your biggest obstacles.
Absolutely.
Where everybody quits. And this mom who was crying to me over the weekend, oh, this isn't working. You're telling me he's going to have a bladder infection. She's holding it, blah, 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 blah. And she quit. She wouldn't have had Monday and Tuesday where he's been going 100% on the potty.
Love that.
Let me ask you, let's shift just slightly here. The one among the many things that the three of us have in common here is that even though the ages of the diagnosis for each of our child varies, Brian's daughter was diagnosed in the 90s. My son Elijah was diagnosed at 3 and he was 16. Juliana, obviously more recently, but each of us has taken a child's diagnosis, gotten into a profession, and build a bridge between other people that are going through the same thing and the profession and or service or business that you provide. So for anybody that's listening and trying to think, how do I take this challenge and turn my solution or the quest for the solution into a business? Because what that does is it gives you freedom of time, and you know that there's so much value associated with each dollar that you earn. Talk a little bit about some of the nuts and bolts, as much as time would allow, for taking this in, because it's one thing to have a grand idea and now you believe and we've got help, but I can turn this help into a business. Talk a little bit about what it took to do that from strategy once you got past belief.
I always knew, like, I've always been very successful in business. So I could take companies from nothing and make them sell millions and millions of dollars for them. I said, why can't I do that for myself? And I had been thinking, maybe I'll teach business to women or moms or whatever, and that was an idea I was kicking around. And I said, then all of a sudden this came to me and I said, I feel like this was meant to be. And I let it go a few times because I think about the ramifications of really sharing a lot of pain.
Yes.
And then my husband, it's interesting, right? So we're, lovely man, fabulous husband, fabulous father. This is very painful for him. And, but he understood I said, you have to understand like how many more kids I could help. Like I probably could help a lot of kids. And, it was a journey. Like it was a lot of back and forth of whether or not I should do this. And if I do it, how much of my daughter am I sharing? And am I sharing something that isn't mine to share? So it was just really a lot of back and forth with it. And then, it was interesting because that bled into, do we tell her about her diagnosis? We hadn't even figured out if we were telling her she had autism.
Right.
And that's a whole other conversation. And we ended up running a whole program for that, for her to tell her that she had it. And now she's a part of the program. Like every Tuesday night, she knows I'm on my call and she comes in and she thinks that she's like the star because everyone saw her video. And she says, she's funny. She's like, these are my fans.
God, I love that.
I love it too. And she's just, now I just think about it. The more I move forward, the more less uncomfortable I am about the idea. But I get it. It's certainly a soul searching decision that's going to be personal for everybody if they want to do something like this. And completely. I'll tell you, it's the most gratifying work I've ever done. I mean,
and it's not for everybody, and it takes for anybody who is where you were, right, in terms of the guard up, because it's a lot to deal with in terms of the diagnosis. Because I'll be honest, the special needs initiative that Brian and I have created is like 5, maybe 6 years old, but I've been in our business for just over 15 years. So I spent some time thinking like, ooh, how is somebody going to receive that? And how, so those are the type of things that you deal with. And it's not for everyone, but what you're doing is you have to be a person that is willing to give in order for the reward. And the reward isn't just like, dollars, but, the control of your time, that kind of thing, whatever it might be. Because if you could have went to a willing employer and created the program that you have, and if they're open to hiring you to do that, that would be great. But it wouldn't be the same. Juliana wouldn't have the experience that she has, whereas like you're not working like around it, so to speak. You know what I mean? In our work, whether we're doing the show or we're with clients together, or either one of us separate on our own appointments, whatever have you, and either one of our kids like walk in the room, that you get to be your authentic self. And there's something that is so valuable for that. So for someone who's trying to figure out how to strike a balance between the benefits I receive and getting the right job and maybe controlling my income where I can go to appointments, that kind of thing, keep asking yourself that question. You have to do what it is that's right for you, but there's such great immeasurable value in building a bridge between solutions for the community. And then who better to serve the community with whatever service or solution you have than us?
Than a member of the community.
That's
exactly
right.
As you've done, right? So as people know that it's truly comes from an authentic place,
Yeah.
and there's relatability, and they're not alone, which is a major thing as well.
Yes.
This has been amazing conversation, very uplifting and encouraging and emotional. And for those of you who are listening, hopefully you've gotten tremendous value. Shawn asks a question every episode around this time in the show, so we're going to throw that to Shawn to ask the question.
Well, our ability to change the world and make it a better place is always tied to our ability or our willingness to change ourselves. And I've already commended you for it because you have such an exceptional amount of self-awareness. But our ability to do that is tied to our ability to change ourselves. And so with that said, give us an example. We want to inspire other people to think as broad as they can, to answer this themselves as you watch this or you're listening, whether it's live or after the fact. Give us an example of one thought or belief that you held on to and believe very strongly, but no longer believe to be true.
I thought about this a lot because I wasn't sure if I should think about something for myself or for her. And the only one that came to me was that I for a time there, I thought I was going to cure her of this. And I would say that to myself a lot. And you know what? I don't really have a problem with that because for up to a certain point, that served me quite well for her. And I got hit with a cold fish on that when she was in kindergarten. I remember thinking, like, if I could just get her to integrated kindergarten, I always in the beginning saw this as like a prison sentence that I was serving, just doing my time, doing, the programs, and I'm staying out of trouble, and I'm just trying to get out of prison early. So that's kind of how I saw the being a parent of a child with autism, is do everything I can to get her to integrate, finally get her there. I visual myself wearing the sash and the crown, and I'm at the Rose Bowl parade, and I'm just waving. I'm out,
walking across the stage.
Out, right?
Yeah.
Thinking that I could make this disappear. And we had a situation come up at a birthday party that year, probably a couple months after I had my swan song departure, or so I thought. And it just reminded me at that moment, like, this is never going to not be here.
Right.
And that thought went from, what if you could have autism and live an amazing life?
100%.
And I was just like, wow, what if I could? And then my brain starts seeking out the evidence of that and looking for people like my Armando. I call him my Armando now because he's part of my program, who didn't talk at the age of 7, who probably his parents, I'm going to interview his mom, but she hasn't, but who was told that he'd never speak, that had she had given up on him, where would he be today? And he's getting married in September. You guys should have him on. I'll send you guys his links so you can talk to him. But
we'd love to.
I remember asking one of the questions I asked him. I said, when you were 7, or when you think about all the things they did, and he didn't have access to ABA back then. It was very expensive, and he's a BCBA now, so he believes in it. And they did a lot of things with him, and some of it probably was questionable. And I said, out of everything that they had done, what was the most effective thing they had done to help you? Or like, what was the therapy that helped you? And he said, oh, my parents. And I'm like, and they had done some things that were tough with him, and he said, I don't know where I'd be today if my mom didn't fight for me like she did.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that puts love in my heart, because I know I've probably made some mistakes with her too, and I'm sure I always call it wasn't my finest parenting moment, but even after all of what he may have been experienced, that he was still so grateful that they never gave up on him.
And there's people who have not yet even begun to experience the benefit of his parents' choice, that haven't enrolled in your program yet, that haven't met him yet. I could go on and on with that. There's a thing known as the reticular activator
Yes,
system,
we're very big on brain science as well. Yes.
There you go. There you go. Which whether it's a part of the brain that is that big or whatever, you just think about it. Whatever it's like I said earlier, what you think about, you bring about. You decide to get a car of a certain color or a certain style, you start seeing it everywhere. They're not being sold more. They were there all the time. So if we end up just being a little more intentional about what it is that we want to do, as opposed to reactionary, when you pull up to the front of your house, your driveway or whatever have you, and there's a small part of you that's not sure how you got there. You didn't run any lights or stop signs or anything, but you're on autopilot, as opposed to being intentional. Here's what I'm going to get out of today. Here's what I'm going to do. And I'll be honest and tell you, that's a complete fight for me that takes place 24/7. But I can't, and I'm going to say this every week because we're so blessed to have such a great platform here and do this show. But this conversation here today has far exceeded anything that I expected. And my expectations were high. And there's so many people that are going to get such great value out of it. And I, as excited as I was about the show beforehand, and I'm excited about it now, and 10 times more excited about the work that we're going to do together going forward.
Agreed.
Thank you.
We're just getting started.
I agree.
That's how I feel too.
I agree. We're gonna do a little wrap up here. I wanted to share one really quick thing. We had Shawn and I had a conversation. I'd seen something on social media, and then we talked about this a week or so ago. There was a young woman with a physical disability in Dubai, and she made a comment on social media that in the United Arab Emirates, they don't. Actually, it's illegal. They give you a ticket if you say that a person has a disability. They call folks that have some sort of special needs, they call them people of determination. I love that designation. And your children and the folks in your program are proof of exactly that, right?
I love that.
It's people of determination. There's actually rules like in their laws at the United Arab Emirates that describe how people of determination should be dealt with in their society, and the accommodations that they deserve, and the acknowledgments that they also deserve. So as we wrap up, first of all, I want to say thank you to Shawn Hall. We miss almost every week we forget to mention Shawn because we don't get to see his face very much. But Shawn Hall, Michelle, just so you know, Shawn Hall is our co-partner in the work that we do here on this podcast. He's in Hawaii. He has a family member that also has special needs issues. And Shawn is just an absolutely amazing human being. And he is in this fight, to serve our community along with Shawn, Francis, and I on a regular basis. He's in our financial services business as well, and just a pristine human being. We love him dearly. And we sometimes forget to thank him. He keeps us on track. He reminds us his 10-minute mark, 5-minute mark. He's probably going to send me a note saying, please stop talking and wrap up the show.
Does our graphics.
He does. He does our graphics. So our social media outreach. So he's an amazing man. So thank you, Shawn Hall. And as I always say, thank you, Jordan, my daughter, Jordan, who loves to participate in this because again, she's part of my story. She's part of our story. She's part of what we're doing and such an integral part of our lives. And I am, as a parent, so blessed to have her continue to amaze and surprise and make me proud. So, she lives in upstate New York, as a matter of fact, and she is married and is a stepmom and is a teacher in special needs classrooms. And so just so proud of the work that she's done. So thank you, Joe, and everybody else who's commented.
And you were told that she was not going to do any of those things. So again, the choices we make.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for the reminder. I just want to say empathy and love, folks. We talk about empathy and love all the time. Be empathetic about people. You have no idea what they're going through, what their situation is. Rather than be judgmental, have some empathy, have some understanding. People are going through something you may not know anything about. And if we look through the world look at the world through lenses of love, the world will be a better place. So with that, I'm going to throw it over to Shawn to close us out and end the show today.
First thing I want to do is
thank
Michelle for her time today. Just so fantastic. I want to thank the women in my life without whom I would not be. That is my amazing wife, Laura, my mom, Jan. And again, remember, give the grace that you seek. Be more child-like and less childish. questions is so much more powerful than statements. Let's continue to be curious about each other. And remember that everyone needs to be seen. Everyone needs to be seen and needs to be heard. I'm saying that twice for each because they're that important, above any and everything else. And wherever you are, watching, listening after the fact, make sure you like, subscribe, and share on the YouTube channel. We can be emailed at wearejusttwodads@gmail.com. We'll see you next time. And wherever you are, we love you.
We love you. Thank you.